What the video resume does is it actually tells their story, how they actually did that, step by step, piece by piece. And that is the real differentiating factor. In order to market yourself, you have to know yourself. You have to know your skills, you have to know your strengths, you got to know what people are really excited about.
Is there any trials or tribulations, any pitfalls or major failures that you've learned from throughout your career?
I think
Welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs, growing 1% everyday podcast.
Hello and welcome to the Art of Kaizen for Entrepreneurs podcast, where we discuss how to grow 1% every day in both business and itself. Today, we have David March, a career coach and author of the book Vision in Action, to talk about his proven 3-step career coaching system that gets you interviews. Excited to talk with David about his unique angle of how he helps people find their passion, show their real selves, and get the job that they are truly looking for. Thank you, David, for joining me today.
Thank you. Yeah. I'm happy to be here, Kyle.
Yeah, man.
I've been doing this for a while now, and it's great to talk about my experience and see how we can support the fellow job seekers and people that are out there.
Absolutely love it. And yeah, you have such a critical component right now in today's day and age where there is such an odd workforce, right? There is 100 kids screaming about there's no jobs out there. There's 100 employers looking for people to work at their job. And there just seems to be this weird misunderstanding of what it really takes to position yourself correctly to be desirable by these business owners, and very difficult for the business owners to clearly outline what they're looking for employers. So I think what you have in today's market is very, very important. And I'd love for you to give us a breakdown of kind of what is your background in this? How did you create this business? And why are you doing it today? Like what drives you? What motivates you to help people every day find their ideal career?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, kind of just I guess the background on me. I started out with career coaching first. Actually, I went into college and everything, looking at being more of like a career counselor to the high school, in high school and in college. But I didn't like the whole idea of the Board of Education being really strict about what I can and can't do. And I felt like I didn't have any freedom to do the things that I thought would be effective. I would be kind of more or less, um, having to do something that the board kind of told me to do. So didn't like that. And so I originally wanted to set off just doing the career coaching thing by itself. I found it to be a little bit difficult to just go at it from a career coaching angle straight ahead. So I got the recruiting experience, and I've worked now in recruiting for staffing agencies and recruiting in internal companies as well. And so I really like the idea of now, since I understand the staffing and recruiting world, now I can really use that career coaching lens to really help people get to the next level in their career. So that's what kind of got me into this. I started off with career coaching, went into recruiting, and now I'm back into career coaching again.
I love that. And really trying to break the boundaries of the limitations that are put in front of you and find a way to really represent people the best that you possibly can. Can you dive into what you're doing today? Tell me, like, if I needed a job and I needed to work with you directly, what would be the process that I'd go with you to get the best of myself out there to find the right job?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah. So the first thing is, I always said such as self-awareness, to know yourself so you can market yourself. That's where it all starts. And I think that there really isn't much good information about that. I first got passionate about this whole idea of self-awareness when I was knocking doors when I was like, I'd say 18, 19, and I would be intrigued by different types of personalities and types of people I would meet door to door. I thought there must be some kind of system that people have thought about before that I could use to help me understand differences about people. And I learned about Myers-Briggs. I learned about David Kiersey's temperament studies, which uses Myers-Briggs. And so I use that along with some other assessments as well to help people understand more about themselves, and so that they can talk more about their strengths and again promote themselves in the best way possible. Because in order to market yourself, you have to know yourself. You have to know your skills. You have to know your strengths. You got to know what people are really excited about what you have. Because sometimes we have this thing where it's called like the curse of knowledge, where you have so much information, you know so many things, but you don't know how much you know, and until somebody else can kind of take that third person view and can highlight it for you. So it all starts with that. Kind of starts off with your strengths, and then we go into what makes you the most effective and efficient player in your field. How do you make the company money? How do you save the company money? How do you make it more efficient? Those sort of things, and then we go into the actual research. It's sort of like a go-to-market plan, but instead of there being a product, we're really just we're really promoting you. You are the product. The person is the product. And then I always say, if the person is the product, what is their product knowledge? It's their self awareness. It's their awareness of their strengths, the awareness of their skills, and the documentation of the accomplishments that they've had previously. So, you know, that all to really make the fit then with the skills and the position, we go through many sessions of just looking at job descriptions, because the job descriptions is pretty much the market research. We're trying to look at what problems are currently in the marketplace. So we look at kind of supply and demand. How many positions are there for this particular position? Oh, yeah. Well, actually, how many positions are there for this particular skill set? And then how rare is that skill set? So kind of looking at the supply and demand there. And then from the the research that we're doing on the job descriptions, we can then create your marketing materials. And before we actually go into marketing materials, we actually create what's called your dream company list. So essentially, all these things we're doing is to eliminate work from the recruiter, because the worst thing you could do is just message a recruiter and say, "Hi, my name is John, and here's my resume. Do you have a job?" That's the worst thing you do, because you're telling them to do all this work. You're giving them homework. As a recruiter, it's all about time to fill. There's an employer that's looking for a position, and they're looking for the position because they're already tight. They have no time. So the recruiter's job is really, how fast can I fill this position? So it's spending all their time on getting the right fit and hiring this person. So if some candidate comes to a recruiter and says, "Hey, here's my resume. Can you get me a job?" He's not even going to respond to him. He's going to get ghosted because they got no time. Recruiters have a very specific position that they get from an employer, saying, "I need this specific thing to be done because I have this specific project and usually complete it." So they just spend all the time on that specific thing. So they really don't have time for candidates that are trying to figure it out. And yeah,
It's crazy how much that aligns with the marketing world, right? You mentioned you being a marketer, but you build first an understanding of the business. So you build the brand background of, and we say it for the business, you're actually doing it for the potential employee, right? You're doing it for your client. You're building his understanding. How is he unique? His positionings, his positives, his negative strengths. And then you saw the Dream 100 list for jobs. We have a Dream 100 for clients. For every one of our clients, we understand what is the ideal consumer that we want to bring into this business. And then once you have that, then you can write the marketing material that not only fits the consumer avatar of your client, or AKA our business, but also the consumer that you're going after, AKA the employer that you're trying to connect with. Super, super powerful. David, break it down a little bit, what it means differently to work with you. Because there's a lot of coaches out there. There's a lot of different people trying to help individuals be better. Well, if they're going to come to you and work with you, how are you unique in your process?
yeah, I think that's a great point. I think what makes me unique is that I have both an understanding of kind of like the abstract and the concrete, or I say the metaphysical and the physical, or you could say the understanding of like personality and these kind of the most abstract concepts of who you are, and also the practical experience of being a recruiter and actually boots on the ground, working with staffing agencies, as a salesperson for staffing agencies, as well as an internal recruiter in big corporate companies like Moody's, with the 10,000 plus employees, been around for hundreds of years. So, I find that most people do one. Like you're either like a career purpose coach, or about more of these metaphysical stuff, like career visioning, manifestation, personality types, or you're a recruiter and you know a lot about like the resume writing and the networking, what hiring managers are looking for. But rarely do you have someone that understands both worlds. I think that's what I really how I differentiate from the people out there.
And clearly understanding both sides gives you the advantage to understand how to work with the individual, to the best out of them, and how to supply to the employer to give him all the information that he wants. Are you guys doing that any differently? You talked about marketing materials, you talked about things that you put together for the client. Are you bringing in anything different? Are you working more with video resumes now? Are you going into this, this web 3.0 and this digital age to really represent the client in 2025?
Great question. Yeah. So what we're doing, yeah, we're doing video resumes, and that's all because you got to tell your story. That's my banner here in the back. It's all about telling your story. And so what we've noticed was, a lot of people have resumes now, and I was a resume writer for many years, and you have these resumes now that have these great metrics. I grew the company revenue from 200,000 to 200 million in 1 year. And it's a great metric. But what the video resume does is it actually tells their story, how they actually did that step by step, piece by piece. And that is kind of the real differentiating factor because it's like, it's sort of like, I always say it's almost like with like basketball. It's like you could see someone's resume about like, scored 40 points in round one or quarter one, whatever you want to say. But that can't be compared to actually seeing him in the game. His court awareness, the way he does his free throw. He has the way his wrist moves. The way he's passing, the way he's running. Right there's all these kind of intangible pieces that a resume just doesn't touch on, which is I think why it's so important now to get that video in there because now you can see all those kind of more intangible pieces, and that really, I think, sets people apart when they're able to see that video.
Telling the full story, being able to really explain who the person is. I mean, the video, you can see how charismatic they are. You can see, how they hold themselves, how they position themselves. Are they confident in front of the camera? AKA, they're going to be confident in front of my customers. I love that. Really giving a lot more value to the potential employee to the employer. So let me ask you, David, are you working with anybody? Are you taking everybody that's looking to get a restaurant job to someone that's looking to get into finance, or is there a specific category that you work in? Who is the ideal person that when they hit you up, you're like, I will 100% be able to get this person's story out there in the right way and find them the perfect job?
Yeah, thanks. Thanks for asking that question. It's usually as someone that's in sales, marketing, technology, product, engineering, kind of AI, ML, like kind of data scientist kind of person, operations, supply chain, that sort of people. I do some work with finance as well, but definitely not someone that is like a teacher or kind of entry level. It's difficult for me to work with someone that's real entry level because I really haven't developed a story yet. My ideal client is really someone that's looking to make a career transition because they haven't made one 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and they're scared. And so that's really my ideal client because it allows both the like emotional aspect of my leadership and the like strategic and more tactical experience I have because that's usually the people that need the most help. I mean, if you're like, switching jobs like every year, 2 years, you probably are familiar with some of the things that are going on. But if you haven't done this in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, you're not going to be wise on all the things that are happening or things that have changed. And you'll get the most benefit from working with me because I know I did. This is what I do. I said, well, this is all I do. So those are typically the people I work with.
Do you have one piece of advice for someone that say he's been in the same career for 15 years? He's just hating his life and he knows he needs a career change, but he has that fear that you talked about. One piece of advice for that individual?
Yeah, think that for those type of people, they really just need to put themselves out there. I think that they're rusty. They're typically rusty, and they don't do a lot of self advocacy, and that's usually the issue. Be able to advocate for themselves and really sell themselves. That's kind of the biggest piece. And yeah, of course, in this job market, don't give up is really the main piece, because there's so many layoffs going on. I mean, from Elon Musk with his DOJ and all this stuff to all the tech layoffs. So there's a lot of people out right now, talented people, and you gotta bring some kind of edge. Yeah.
I love that. Don't give up, bring some edge, and know there's opportunities out there. David, hitting some golden nuggets that are really bringing a lot of information to the people listening to this right now. As an employer who's constantly looking for people, I can tell you right now, if you're listening to this and you're a young entrepreneur, or you're looking to get into a new job, or you're looking to expand your life, when I'm going through applications, we have hiring funnels open 24/7. I'm going through hundreds of applications, and sometimes I can't even remember the application A to application Z. When I'm going through all of these, they start to mesh together because of the consistency, because the same resume that I'm seeing, the same process over and over again. And it gets to a point where it's like, who's going to differentiate themselves from the market so that they are valuable to me and my company and they stand out and remember, and you're hitting all of those points. My next question for you, David, is where's it going? Like, obviously, you're on the cutting edge, bringing in video interviews with these individuals so that you can get the real understanding of the potential employee. But where do you see the recruiting industry going in, say, the next 1 to 2 years?
Yeah, it's kind of a crazy place. I ain't gonna lie. It's with all the AI that's coming out. I've seen people do AI interviewers and all that kind of stuff, and I think that things are going to be moving towards more authenticity and really like I said with the video resumes and everything, because at least in the technology world, in the tech world, what we see is it's like people that are not who they say they are. So we'd have some people that like would say their resume is one thing, and then they had like somebody else like remote into their computer, take the assessment, and then you get out. And then when we actually speak to them about the questions that they completed in the assessment, they can't really speak to them. So I think where this is going is just like has to be more human, and we need to kind of just go back to asking more human based questions. It's something simple as like, if we're hiring like for like a software engineer for coding, what was the last book that you read on coding? Who are some of your mentors? And just going back to just real human connections and authenticity of the person's responses is, I think, where the future needs to go. We're getting too far in with AI and everything. And at the end of the day, we're hiring humans, so we got to keep it human and human resources.
I love that. I love that. And you're 100% right. And people are so afraid in today's market of an AI coming in, taking their job, or you being replaced by AI. But to be totally honest, we need humans in these human interactions. And AI will only replace you if you're doing the jobs that a simple AI can do. Right. There's so much room, so much opportunity now for people to bring in value that's outside just the basic level stuff that we've been seeing being developed from AI. Image development and copywriting might seem advanced for these platforms, but at the end of the day, if they're not used correctly, if there's not the psychology of a human being behind these assets, they don't move the needle for businesses. So being able to separate themselves, being more personal, being honest, I love that. The transparency, the authenticity, I completely agree with you 100%. I want to shift a little bit. Your business is incredible. You're really breaking down how you're helping out not just the individuals that are looking for jobs, but also the recruiters and the employers that should be getting more information from the potential hires. You've done a great job there. I'm curious, you personally, as you've gone through this process of working for the school board, being a recruiter, and now being a coach again, is there any trials or tribulations or any pitfalls or major failures that you've learned from throughout your career that you'd like to bestow some knowledge to the listeners here today? Something that maybe was something that happened to you that changed the way that you think about either how you present yourself as an individual, or how you present yourself to an employer, or how you look at the world.
Yeah, actually, this is going to be a big one, and this is something that I try to share with everyone. I think this is, you know, something a lot of people challenged with, and I've challenged it myself. This whole idea of being like scared to share your insights and your thoughts and such on something. I think that's a big deal, and it's mostly because people think that someone's going to steal what they have. And at the end of the day, there's only one you. There's only one person that's like you, that's going to be able to do things like you do. And I talk about that a lot. And some of the what that's one of the biggest things I've learned is, like, can't replace someone's embodiment or internalization of the knowledge that they have. You can always go on ChatGPT, you can always go on YouTube, you can always learn all these things, but no one's gonna know it as you, if you're the expert in it, if you've got the mastery of it. So it's like, I tell people all the time, they're like, oh, I don't want to, let's say I'm creating some kind of marketing materials for a job seeker. They're like, well, I'm not going to share all this stuff. That's all my secret sauce, all my secret information. They're going to take all of that. And the truth is, they're not going to do anything. They're not going to do anything. Most people are lazy. And if they were so great, and they really like it, they'll hire you to do it. So that's why they're hiring you. And I think that's kind of the biggest thing that I've learned, because people are very resistant to that. They're resistant to like sharing all these things, especially if I'm telling them to do that, like in order to, you know, separate themselves from the pack and interview in a resume kind of stack. So yeah, just no one's going to take away your internalization and your embodiment, your mastery of what you know.
David, I
And
could not agree with you more. I especially in the marketing world, right? Everyone thinks what we do is a secret, right? So, I took that acknowledgement probably 4 or 5 years ago, where I was like, you know what? I can tell you everything that I know. I can give you the secret sauce. I can explain to you the exact structure of my business. Do it. Go work as hard as I'm going to work. I dare you to try to outwork me. It's not going to be fun. I can promise you that, right? So I love that. And I think that's a message that needs to be heard from the world, is that yes, you have uniqueness. Yes, you have special skills, but that's what truly separates you from the market. And another piece of that is, as you share that information, you're already a step ahead. If someone's working just to copy the information that you're giving out to the world, they're always going to be one step behind you, which makes you look even better. It makes you look like people are striving to be like you. But the nice thing is that if you don't slow down, they're never going to catch up. And that leads to my final question for you, David. How do you find your Kaizen? For the listeners out there, Kaizen is a Japanese business philosophy that means 1% progression every day in both business and itself. David, you're obviously on top of the ball here with understanding what is needed for the recruiting side, what is needed for an employee that wants to find the right employer, and you're constantly developing yourself and your business. But what is the practices that you go through in a daily habits to ensure you're always finding that 1% improvement every day?
yeah, that's a good question. I'll just get some of courses from the other mentors and people that are out there doing this, um, and coaches and such. I'll take some of their courses to kind of sharpen my sword, if you will. I'm always kind of just like thinking about how I can improve, let's say, my outreach messages to different recruiters and such for my candidates. Reading and meditating is a really big thing for me. Sometimes I just like to, read something over and over again and then kind of meditate on it, so I can really get get the level of comprehension and understanding, so I can get that 1% better. And yeah, I mean, that's to me what it's all about. Like, yeah, just getting 1% better every day. And kind of sharpening the sword, if you will.
Love that. And doing it through mentors, absorbing outside knowledge, and then constantly searching for knowledge, having that why in the back of your mind. Why is this right? What is right next? What's happening? And looking for that information.
Questioning. Yeah, you got to question things, and you got to study them, and you got to work on them, and all that kind of stuff. Deep. Like, I like to have like a thorough understanding of things. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. David March, thank you so much for joining us today. It's really incredible. If there's a listener out there right now that is looking for an opportunity to work with you, maybe they're in the software engineering space, the IT space, and they're looking to find someone like yourself to help guide them on what is needed to be the best employee they can for the next employer, how would they get in contact with you? How would they find you?
So yeah, my website is coachdavemarch.com. You can get more information there. On LinkedIn, it's probably my most active social media. You can catch me on LinkedIn. I'm always on there. David March that's really the best way to find me, is on LinkedIn. And yeah, I mean, of course, I have Instagram and everything. But if you're looking to contact with me, send me a connect request on LinkedIn. send me a message, likely respond, within 24 hours. So I'm pretty active on LinkedIn.
Love that. And all that information is going to be found below in the show notes, guys. If you guys are able to finish this video, we appreciate it. Thank you so much from the Kaizen team. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you at the next Kaizen podcast.